Today we're in the headquarters of Self-Made Training with Miguel Aguilar, the CEO and founder of Self-Made Training Facility, visionary of the Self-Made brand and host of the Self-Made podcast. He's turned a very challenging life experiences into positivity and profit through his movement to impact fitness in a very powerful way. Through sheer hustle and grit, he's broke through and become a leading real estate investor, entrepreneur, and a leader of 6 companies, and a father of 2 beautiful girls. He's made a huge impact in the health and fitness community with his rapidly growing self-made training facilities, adding value to personal training, promoting entrepreneurship, and providing a unique platform different from the rest. So today, welcome to the Escape Your Limits podcast, Miguel. I am impressed because I walked through the door and expected, we met at LA Convention a few weeks ago actually, and I expect a traditional personal training studio, but this is huge. How big is this?
This one's 18,000 square feet. It's our corporate headquarters. So it's the largest training facility, known to us to be the largest training facility in the United States.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's catered towards private training, coaching, and that's it.
Looking at where you are now and following you on social media and looking at your videos, you know, you've been very successful.
Yes.
Obviously, that isn't how it always was. So I just thought, just for interesting for people who are thinking about this as a dream, tell us a bit about your background. You know, how did you start? What school? You know, how did you grow up? Just tell us a bit about that story to give us some perspective on it.
So I'll make it direct and brief in a sense, right? So I call it, you know, abandoned, homeless, and broke, and this is my story. That's how I always start off in a sense, right? My mother abandoned me when I was 12 years old. She left us with my father, said she was going to return and never did. She disappeared, haven't seen her since the age of 12.
Right.
And going into that, we were left with our father, who already remarried, had a family of his own, and my father was a heavy alcoholic and drug addict. And it progressed even worse from 12 to all the way to 16. By the time I was 16, he committed a crime that they incarcerated him for 22 years.
Wow.
So having that happen while I was in high school, you know, the day they sentenced him, a couple days after, my stepmother kicked us out. So it was me and my younger brother. Yeah, so she kicked us out at the age of 16 and pretty much told us we had to, you know, figure it out. Given that we'd been in the system before, because my mother was a very unstable woman. We've been in the system before, so we never wanted to go through that again. So me and my brother loaded up our car, and we really drove around for about an hour and a half, went to a payphone, made a bunch of phone calls, see if we could stay at, you know, friends' houses, anybody's home, just to stay the night, and we ended up not finding a place, so we slept in our car. That was the start to the homeless part, you know. So we lived out of our car for about 6 to 7 months, jumped from friend to friend, wherever we could stay the night at somewhere we would. And then I was very fortunate enough that my assistant wrestling coach found out what happened, and he asked his dad if I could stay with him. And so I ended up getting a home, you know, to stay at for a short period of time. And through that, he was able to get me a job while I was a junior in high school, working graveyard, which I don't know how he pulled that off because I wasn't 18 yet, you know. So 17 years old, got me a job working at Home Grocer in Fullerton. And I grew up in Riverside, California.
Right, okay.
So, in not the best side of the town either, you know. No, it's as poor as you can get, you know. So working graveyard my junior and senior year, I would work from midnight till 10 in the morning, and I was very fortunate that I did do summer school because I wrestled throughout my whole high school. I wrestled, and I wrestled prior. So I always did summer school to advance and to get some electives out of the way. So that actually helped me my junior and senior year because I only had 4 classes my junior year and then 3 classes my senior year. So it allowed me to work graveyard and then go straight to school, then go to wrestling.
All night. And
yes. So I'd work from midnight till 10 in the morning in Fullerton, drive back to Riverside, go straight to my class. I was late to my fourth period class every day. And my English teacher she had it, you know, and eventually, that's another cool story. She allowed me to graduate high school. In other words, gave me an opportunity to graduate because she almost gave me a failing grade because I was late every day and I wasn't always up to par when it came to the studies and the schooling. But she eventually, you know, gave me a project to earn a D to barely pass high school, you know. So I barely graduated high school.
Right.
By the time I was a senior, I had my own apartment. I was paying bills like an adult. I grew up pretty fast in that period, and then I graduated high school. So I was very fortunate. The only thing that kept me from going in a different route was my wrestling. I mean, those were my brothers, and that was my family. So that allowed me to graduate high school and continue to at least progress in something positive, right? But you can imagine 16 years, 17 years, no parental control. I got into a lot of trouble. Never got caught, but just was into a lot of trouble, between drinking, drugs, alcohol, all that good stuff. Nothing that I'm proud of, but that's, we got into that. So wrestling kind of kept me in the middle, not completely in the dark side and not completely in the light. Graduated high school. I almost joined the military. I almost joined the Army because I was trying to get a wrestling scholarship, and unfortunately I didn't. I actually went to the state meet and fractured my ankle in my first round. Beat the guy in double overtime, so I advanced, but I wasn't able to continue to wrestle. So that prevented me from getting that scholarship. I did get a partial to Cerritos, but I couldn't afford the schooling nor the housing, so I ended up going straight into work, and I got into construction.
Right.
So that's the only thing I could get into because I obviously no college education, no real backing, but I was always good with my hands, and I don't mind working. My work ethic is by far, it's out there. From my wrestling to everything that I did, I always put 100% into it. Got into construction. I had it all planned out in my head. I was going to start off as, an apprentice, from an apprentice to a journeyman to a foreman to a project manager, and eventually own my own construction company.
Right.
That was set in my head.
You had an idea at that age to own the business.
Oh yeah. And I wanted to do something, you know. So I knew I had to put in the work, and I went through the schooling, I went through the apprenticeship program, and my third year in, I figured out that that's not what I wanted. I always felt that I had something better to do. I had something more to give than construction. Don't get me wrong, construction is it's a hard career, very rewarding as well. You're building stuff and you're seeing the final projects, but it just wasn't for me. So in that process, I was trying to figure out what's my next move. And somebody told me at dinner when I was complaining about my job, how much I hated construction, he suggested I try real estate. This was in 2002, 2003. I've already graduated high school. I've already had about 3 years I graduated in 2000, so 3 years into construction. And he suggested try real estate. You'd be really good at it. You communicate very well. You're bilingual, and everybody likes you. And I was like, all right, cool. So I'll give it a shot. Set up my online courses for that, and I started studying. And at the same time, I was still partying, still doing, normal kid stuff. I was 23 years old, 22, 23. And going into real estate, not knowing anything about real estate, I had to kind of teach myself about real estate. I did a lot of practice courses, did a lot of online courses. And then I finally passed all my principal tests and went to go take my state test. And by doing that, you have to pass to get your license, And my first time going in there, I partied the weekend before, failed it. And I always tell about this story about not giving up and wanting to actually accomplish something. So when it came to my real estate test, I failed it 9 times. Wow. And it's not because I was stupid, it's just I wasn't committed.
Right.
I wasn't committed to what I wanted to do. And finally, after the 9th time, I had to take a look at myself in the mirror and say, what do you want to do? I just had another bad week at work. I hated that job. I was like, what are you going to do about it? So the first time since the age of 16 all the way up to about 23, I didn't go out for a month. I studied, I took the crash course, I put my head down and committed to passing this test. Right. I go take the test and I pass.
Why do you think you went through it 9 times knowing you probably could have done it, but you went out and partied?
I partied every weekend, and I was doing drugs at the same time and alcohol. And that played into my life at that time. Right. I was trying to mask all this emptiness with all my past with partying. And partying you obviously associate with multiple people and you feel validated or you feel welcomed. So it wasn't priority number one.
Right.
It wasn't it was like my main thing. But then having a really bad week at work or having a bad day at work and hating that job so much, but yet not doing something about it, that was the most frustrating part for me. It's like I have the capability of doing something great here, but yet I'm not committed to it. Yeah. So the mindset had to switch, and I finally was fed up after the 9th time. I felt like, yeah, maybe I am stupid. But then yet again, I was like, no, I just didn't commit myself to it.
Right.
Once I committed, look what happens. The result was I passed my test.
Right.
And persistence. You know, I don't quit. I'm a wrestler. You know, for every move there's a counter move. For every problem there's a solution. But I have to be the solution. I have to fix that situation. So, with the wrestling mindset, you know, I didn't give up. Because most people fail once or twice and then, okay, what's next? I suck at this, let me find something else. No, I wanted to be a real estate agent. I already in my head had a vision of what suit I was gonna buy, what car I was gonna buy, what I was gonna do, how I was gonna treat my clientele, how I was gonna be a successful leading real estate agent in the industry that is saturated. You know, what's gonna set me apart? So I already had it all set up. But once I passed my test, that was okay, I passed my test, what's next? I didn't have a suit. I had a piece of shit car. I just like, it was all bad, right? But I felt very comfortable at the gym. So when I went to the gym after work, I would always change my clothes prior to stepping into the gym, so people wouldn't see me in my construction work. I would be in my gym clothes already, and I walk in, and I'm a very I'm a social butterfly. I get along with everybody, right? So through the gym, I felt very comfortable in my own skin. So at that point, that's where I started actually marketing myself as a real estate agent.
Okay.
And it's all, I was still working as a plumber. I was a commercial plumber in construction. So.
Right.
I was still working as a plumber, and I was getting, going straight to the gym after work. And in the back of my head, I was like, I got to get rid of this job. I need to do real estate full time. So how am I going to do this? I need to generate some business, because real estate, if you know, it's all commission based. You don't, It's not salary, it's not hourly, it's all commission based. And it's based on your service and what you provide. So through the gym, since I felt comfortable there, and I knew that when I'm at the gym, I've always been in shape. People always ask me, I was like, oh, how do you bench this? Or how do you eat like this? Or, asking questions. So every time they would ask a question, I would answer it, but I would answer it in a sense where I can include real estate in it. So if somebody asked me, how do you stay so lean? Well, my food's on point. It was like, my food's on point because I prep it and I have the time to do so because my work schedule allows me. Well, what do? I sell real estate. And I would just plant a seed. I would never say, oh, you want to buy a house or you want to sell a house. I would just plant a seed. Then weeks pass, and now the questions are, okay, how do you stay so lean, but yet, what's the real estate market doing? What's my house worth? Then I would do the research and I would find out, and then at the same time, educating myself of what real estate actually is, the fundamentals of real estate. So in the process, when I would get these real estate questions, I would be able to answer them. And if I didn't have the answer, I would always go back and search it. Hey, look, the market's always changing. Let me get back to you. Get their information, call them back. So I built that rapport with a lot of these, people that were just training at the gym. Now they see me as a real estate professional.
Right.
So eventually what happened after about 6 or 7 months into me being licensed, I ended up getting 2 deals out of LA Fitness,
really?
Out of a corporate gym that I was training out of. And those 2 deals, I serviced them. One was a purchase, one was a listing. And with the purchase, because I had a 1993 BMW that looked like trash, right? Every time I made a right turn, the door would open. So I'd have to bungee that together. Or every morning, I couldn't afford to change the fan belt, so it'd squeal really loud. So I Googled how to make that stop. So I would put a bar of soap to it to lube it up a little bit, and it'd do good for the day. So every weekend with my purchase, a client, I had to actually go to Enterprise and rent a car for the weekend and go show them property. And I did that until I got them into escrow. Got that into escrow, got my listing into escrow, and they both went into escrow, and they were about 30 to 45 days before they closed. In the same time, making sure my service was always 100%, answering any questions that they had, make sure they were fully educated in what they're getting themselves into when it came to real estate, because real estate is a big purchase.
Yeah.
I tell people there's 3 things that are very important in life. 1 is, deciding to get married. 2 is deciding to have kids, and 3, deciding to buy a house, because they're long-term commitments. So with that being said, the service was always like number 1. I was so involved and so committed to the service that I didn't really pay attention to what I was going to make, because I was so nervous of dropping the ball and letting the deals fall out of escrow. So through that whole 30, 45 days, they eventually were set to close. Everything was done properly, lending was funded, everything was moving forward. And they both closed within the same week. By the time they closed, my broker gave me my commission checks. When I got those commission checks, I looked at them and I couldn't believe it. The commission checks was equivalent to 1 year's pay as a commercial plumber. In 30 to 45 days, I made 1 year's income as a plumber, and I was like putting 2 and 2 together. And at that time, I was reading a book, first book I've ever read since high school, was Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Okay.
You know, gave me a whole different mindset. Do I want to be the poor dad or do I want to be the rich dad, right? So at that point, I was like, all right, cool. So I went to Wells Fargo, deposited my checks, and the teller tells me, hey, there's going to be a 10-day hold on each check. I was like, no, that can't happen. I was like, what do you mean 10 days? I was like, well, I've never had that much money in my account, so they got to make sure, you know, they clear. So I was like, all right, cool. So 10th day, she printed out my receipts for my deposits, and on there it told me what, you know, the 10th day would be and when they would clear. So I put those on my billing board. I've always had a vision board, and I put that on my vision board. And I still continued to work as a plumber, still kept doing my routine, still kept recruiting and doing everything I could on the real estate aspect. On the 10th day, I go into the branch the following day, the 11th day, and I made sure they cleared. And the day they cleared, my stomach dropped, my brain started, you know, just running and just all these ideas like, dude, I'm a real estate agent. At this point, now I felt like I was a real estate agent, you know? So I was like reading that book, and in that book, it talked about having a crutch, you know, having something to fall back on if this doesn't work. And by having that, that limits you from your full potential.
Okay.
So for me, I can have a crutch, right? And I just made a lot of money that can hold me over for about a year, right? As long as I don't go spend it. And the next following day, I was supposed to go to work. And in my head, I was already thinking, I was like, what do I do? Do I quit? Do I not? What do I do? Do I put in my 2 weeks? And knowing that I hated the job so much, I was like, you know, I'll give them 2 weeks. But the next morning, I woke up, and something inside me told me, this is not for you, Miguel. You know, why give them 2 more weeks of your time when you can spend those 2 weeks selling real estate, right? And go full forth with it. Yeah. I woke up, and at that point, I was already a journeyman. So I wasn't an apprentice, I was a journeyman going into my foreman position. And the foreman that I had at that time made fun of me throughout the whole schooling because I failed 9 times, told me I was stupid, to give it up, just concentrate on my construction and do all that, right? So the next day I called him and I said, hey, I quit. And he started laughing. And he goes, what do you mean you quit? I was like, dude, I told him what I made, and he was like, you're BSing, right? And I said, no, I quit, dude. I'm not putting in my 2 weeks. He says, you know they're not going to hire you back. I was like, that's a point. And I told him, F off, and I gave off because he kept laughing at me. So I hung up. That week, something inside me knew that this is it. I have no other crutch. I have no other way of looking back and saying, hey, I can fall back on this when the market, you know, if the market doesn't treat me right.
Yeah. And is that just on that point? You know, if someone, because a lot of people say that, well, they'll do one job and make some money and then keep the other one as a backup plan. You know, from that lesson, would you say to people, just go head first and just do it? You know, is that what you?
You have to be strategic,
right?
You know, if the commission checks was only going to hold me over for 2 months, no. Right. You know, but this was going to hold me over for a year if I did it strategically. Right. So you have to weigh out your options. You definitely have to be smart about that decision because it's a big decision. But yes, I would eliminate any crutch that's going to prevent you from your full potential because if I'm backed up in a corner, right? There's no other way out besides fighting back. Yeah. You know, if I'm backed up in a corner, but I know, hey, there's a little exit plan here for me that's safe and secure, but I hate it, that's not going to give me my full potential. Right. You know, and I'm looking for my full potential. I knew I was capable of great things. I just needed that push, you know, and that allowed me, seeing that amount of money for a poor kid like myself that grew up with nothing. I was all in, you know, but yet again, I made some mistakes along the road with that as well, you know, thinking I was going to save it all. Of course, you know, you go crazy, but I still went into that and to validate to get rid of my crutch completely. As a plumber, you accumulate a lot of tools, specialty tools that are geared to that job. In my back of my mind, I was like, all right, cool, I can do side jobs if this doesn't happen, right? So that weekend, I had a yard sale. I sold everything. Pennies on the dollar, gave it away, didn't even care. The only thing that I ever kept was a Milwaukee drill that I sacrificed my own pay to buy because I needed it for my trade, which back then was about 120 bucks. But that's a lot of money for a 21-year-old, 22-year-old kid that was barely making, you know, $2,000 a month, $3,000 a month. So that Milwaukee drill, I was like, I'm gonna use this to frame up, because I love art. I love art, anything artistic. I'm very in tune
I can
with
see.
that. Yeah, through the graffiti and everything that we do, right? I'm gonna frame up and put up my awards, my certificates. I'm gonna need this to put stuff on the wall. So I kept my Milwaukee drill, which I still have.
Right.
And that was a testament to me that this is gonna work out. So I sold all my tools, and 15 years later, I haven't looked back.
Right.
Became one of the leading real estate agents in the industry here in Temecula, Murrieta. Was a top producer. 1 year, I sold 98 homes in 1 year. I was affiliated with a company that allowed my full potential to happen. And I ended up owning my own brokerage within 3 years. 3 years of being a real estate agent. So I started off as an agent and a brokerage.
So just on that point, because I guess you didn't. From the sound of it, it wasn't that you had your father there that was kind of saying, okay, we'll do this and push yourself, and you didn't really have any of that. So what do you think, looking back, what was it that helped you to become, to take that shift from being a plumber and then to going into a totally different industry that, it's pretty difficult to get into, and then being the top at it? What do you think kind of made that happen? Because it certainly wasn't your situation that helped.
My wrestling background.
Your wrestling background.
Yeah.
And what was specifically about that, though?
The never quit attitude. The you don't. For instance, in wrestling, my wrestling coach, a huge contributor to my success as well, and my wrestling team. The attitude of not giving up, of not giving in when the opponent is stronger than you or quicker than you. There's always my coach would always tell me when we'd get stuck in a move, he'd be like, you're not stuck. For every move, there's a counter move, and then he would show you. So the same thing applied to life. For every problem, the abandonment, the homeless, the being poor, all that stuff, that problem, there's a solution to it. But who's the solution? I am. Wrestling is one-on-one. That's what I love about that sport. You can't put the finger on anybody. That's what makes me a great CEO. I can't blame anybody for my failures. Or I can't, if I succeed, I succeed. If I fail, I fail. But I am still responsible for a lot of people, that do help us grow to become CEOs. So with my wrestling team supporting me and backing me, that's what allowed me to progress.
Right.
That mindset, just the don't take shit from nobody, and you're out to kill everybody, in a sense, in competition.
Yeah.
I wrestled to win. No one wrestles to lose. You lose and there's no one else around you. It's not a team behind you saying, it's his fault, he didn't block me, or, and that's just my mentality, my mindset.
So real estate, fitness, I get you obviously was probably training and pretty fit at the time, but how did you make that jump, and why did you make that jump?
So I've always been into competing. I compete not against anybody but myself. I'm always trying to progress and evolve, right? And so I got into bodybuilding. From wrestling, I needed another outlet. So bodybuilding was perfect for me. Got into bodybuilding, did my first bodybuilding show, signed up with the coach, and did my first show, took first place, in the middleweight division. And that division, for me to progress out of that, I had to compete and do more, but I wasn't willing to do some of the things that industry demands. So I kind of put it off for a little bit, but then I got a phone call, a few months after winning my first competition that Men's Physique opened up in the IFBB and the NPC. Got into that, and I was like, all right, cool, I'm gonna turn pro in this. This is what I want to do. So I got into that, started competing, and I turned pro as an IFBB pro in Men's Physique.
Right.
So I've always been in the industry, and then from there, I got into powerlifting. Powerlifting, became an elite powerlifter, hit my elite number. So I've always competed. So that's what allowed me to get into this fitness world. But we actually started this in our garage.
Really?
We created a private studio in the garage. We would have people come train there out of the garage, and the private studio, my wife is a personal trainer, so she would train all her athletes out of our garage, and that came overwhelming. It got a lot of people at the house. It just wasn't for what I wanted. So I told her, hey, go find somewhere to go work. And she started looking at other private studios. A lot of the private studios didn't have everything she needed, or were very small, or just the same thing. They're a gym where, corporate gyms, don't get me wrong, corporate gyms are great for a person that wants to just train themselves. Go pay your $10 membership, whatever the case. But when it came to personal training, it was very devalued. So we had a lot of discussions, and then we came up with this concept. But this concept, to be honest with you, I can't take full ownership of that I created, or we created in a sense. It's been around for ages.
Really?
It really has. Independent contractors in personal training have been around forever.
Right.
But the only problem that I ever saw was that people weren't trying to actually make it better or make it different. You know, so what I did, I took the initiative to make this different.
Right.
So I got into this not knowing everything besides my fitness background in a sense of competing, but knowing my real estate background. Same thing as if you think of a brokerage. A brokerage has a broker, and it has a bunch of real estate agents underneath them, and they're all independent contractors. So we're no different, but
Right,
now we're
yeah.
in the fitness industry.
Right.
And then the same thing with the brokerage. You know, the broker or the office provides tools and systems for these agents to be successful. So what we did is like, hey, let me add tools and systems for these trainers of mine to be successful.
Right.
And what I wanted to make it different as well and make it unique is that we don't charge any gym memberships. So for me to get into this, it wasn't about the sale of a gym membership. It was always about the service of the trainer and the trainer's success.
Right.
So that's how I got into it.
Right, okay. And what about, because this is, I know this is not your first one, but
No.
there's a lot of money to do this. How did you get partners, you raise finance? How did you
So
do that?
in my real estate career, I made a lot of money, and I also lost a lot of money.
Right.
When I opened up my brokerage, we were crushing the industry. We were doing very well for the first 3 years, and then the market changed on us. Market shifted. I ended up going from an 1,800 square foot office to almost 10,000 square foot office, always upgrading, always adding more systems and adding tools to our agents. But at the same time, I was growing only in one place, here in Murrieta. So it went from a very small location to a very large location, but when the market shifted, a lot of my agents left. A lot of agents went somewhere else, or there's a new brokerage that came in, they went to the new thing, right? So I had this large overhead and very little return. So we ended up bankrupting in 2012.
Oh.
That was a big eye opener, super humbling, you know.
What was the biggest sort of takeaway from that point?
Don't overextend yourself, and don't think you're too good. You know, it can all end in a heartbeat. And it really felt like that way. And so I took away from that, and I took a very valuable thing out of it, is that if you have something unique and you have something great, don't go so big so fast, test it out somewhere else. So getting out of bankruptcy in 2012, 2013 was like the rebuilding, you know.
Sorry to jump in then, just on that then, what was going through your mind mentally? Because that's a big, you know, I guess ego, you've built this, you're in a certain place, and then to have lost everything. What sort of things were going through your head at that point?
Embarrassment, I mean, almost self-pity at one point, but then yet, you know, I pull myself out of that crap real quick.
Right.
But a lot of things like, what are people gonna think? You know, and the best way for me to counter that was to still produce. And even though I was going through the bankruptcy, I was still buying and selling a lot of real estate for my clientele.
Right.
So I still did not skip a beat. I did not go into a cave and say, poor me, poor me. I was like, all right, I need to not do this again and move forward. You know, how do I move forward? The most embarrassing part is having my wife get her car repossessed as she's at 24-hour fitness, you know, because we didn't make our payments. So those things, that fear of ever letting that happen again, I was like, flip the script. No, I got to change that.
And was there anything that you did? Were you reading stuff? Did you have someone who kind of helped, you know, snap you out of it? What were some of the things that you did?
Unfortunately, I didn't.
Right.
Besides myself, I'm real big on. I talk to myself every day.
Right.
I like literally. People think I'm crazy. Like I imagine what I'm doing 2 years from now, a year from now. Like a quick little story. Like I love building classic cars. My dream car was a 1959 Impala. I would pretend I was low riding in my car and hitting, you know, the hydraulics, the switches, and envisioning myself doing that. A year later, I get it. I build my dream car. You know, as in the transition, obviously the growth of the business, the money was there. I built what I wanted. You know, so same scenario. Out of bankruptcy, I already envisioned myself selling X amount of homes, talking to X amount of people, and at this time, this was when the market, 2007, 2010, the market was very volatile. It was bankruptcies everywhere, short sales everywhere. Things were very difficult. So in 2012, I switched my marketing campaign, and I always evolved with the business. So for me, I was already envisioning exactly what I was going to do after bankruptcy.
Right.
Instead of feeling sorry for myself. I was like, what am I going to do to make this different?
Right.
You know, and I don't have any family. My support system was my wife at that point. You know, she wrote it out with me. So and then my kids, that was my motivation. I have two beautiful daughters.
Did you ever question whether you could do it again, or did you have that self-confidence?
No, like I knew I would do it again. You know, that's the beautiful thing about entrepreneurship. It's like you can win some, you can lose some, but you can always come back. No one can take that away from you. No one can take away your mind. No one can take away your ideas. You can prevent that from happening. You know, so if I would have self-pity or talk myself out of it, then I'd still be in that hole in 2012, right? So I didn't let that define me.
Right.
You know, I didn't let any setbacks or any hurdles or anything ever define who I was. And I'm the type of person that I don't care what people think, you know. I'm going to still push forward because people will forget that anyways. You know, if anything, now it gives me a great story to tell them. You know, look where I'm at now. I didn't let that hinder my success.
Right.
So progressing forward with the financing, you know, how we developed this, through bankruptcy, I was able to keep some of my assets because we bankrupted out of the corporation. So some of my personal assets I was able to keep. And I love building cars. So I had a 1970 Suburban, slammed, I mean, beautiful car. I built that one as well. I had a 2007 Harley Davidson, all customed out. All my vehicles are white, by the way. White and black trim. So fully customed out, it was featured in Hot Bikes magazine. So all my stuff's very, very nice high-end stuff. I looked at that, I was like, that's sitting money right there. I don't have any way of financing. I don't have any type of savings because I was rebuilding in 2013, getting things caught up, building my credit back up, doing things I needed to do to progress. But we had this idea, we had this thing that we wanted to make happen. Yeah. So one, I put my head down and I sold as many homes as I possibly could, saved whatever I could, covered my personal overhead, didn't overextend. We limited ourselves from going out to eat a lot, just basically really buckled down. And then I sold my Suburban, I sold my Harley Davidson. And with that, I actually bought our free motion equipment, it bought our dumbbells. And then also by selling real estate, taking 30-40% of that and putting it into the business, I was able to get the whole facility going.
And what sort of money did you invest in that first one?
About $150,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So within 90 days, 6 months, I ended up saving about $75,000. Okay. Right. Because that was our budget. Our budget was $75,000. Not going into something not knowing the industry 100%, what equipment costs and what everything it takes of the build outs, the look that we wanted. I'm so OCD, ADD that everything has to be right. We undershot ourselves. So we had 75 grand, we went through that real quick. We still had about another 80 grand that we needed. So I sold property. Every time I sold a property, I went back into the business. Right. We lived very frugal to be able to make this dream work, you know? So we put our own money, no loans, no handouts, no nothing. Right. And once we had it fully built out, even with our first location, if you look back at our Instagram pictures and what it looked like, it's almost identical. There's not much of a change. Still did the graffiti, still did everything very high end, but yet garage feel, because that's my culture in a sense. This is where I came from. Yeah. And with that, it just basically blew up. With social media being the way it is, everything was through Instagram and Facebook. Created such a movement and a brand that people just gravitated to it. You know? And then the service we provided, you look at our Yelp reviews, all 5-star Yelp reviews, we really cater on that. Yeah. So within 6 to 7 months of being fully functional and working, we were fully staffed, 35 trainers, supplement store, being able to do all that. In 7 months, give or take, got my full investment back. Right, wow. So instead of me going buying a boat or getting my car back or doing any of that stuff, I was like, dude, let me see if this will work somewhere else. Right. So I'm from Riverside. And I was like, Temecula's, Murrieta Temecula is one demographic. I know it's going to work in Riverside, so let me go to Corona. So I found a place in Corona right off of McKinley, Corona, California.
And roughly how far is that for people who?
It's about 25 miles, give or take. It's about a 45-minute drive. 45-minute drive to an hour, just depending on traffic, because that 15 and 91 interchange is a nightmare, So went out there. Same approach as I did with my first one, but this time now I had capital there. So went a little bit higher end equipment. Everything now definitely was color coordinated. The graffiti was still the same. The build out was a little bit more because it used to be a Goodyear tire. So it had the roll up doors, it had everything that we wanted, but I needed to renovate the whole thing. Right. So we renovated the whole thing, implemented some new systems, and within 3 to 4 weeks, I was fully staffed.
Wow. And did you have in terms of the business model, so you said on the first one you had 35 trainers, did you know how many people that you needed to make it work? Had you sort of seen a model and said, well, that's a good model, or did you kind of work that out yourself?
Yeah, I just worked it out myself. So
Right.
I saw something, I knew what my overhead was, and I knew what my return needed to be.
Right.
And at that point, I was like, all right, how do we make this work? Originally, to be honest with you, we were thinking about doing a membership gym. You know,
Right.
we'll charge a small
Yeah.
membership, we'd have a couple trainers, we'll be okay. But then at that point, I was like, we're just like, how am I going to compete with these big box gyms? You
Right.
know, how am I going to do that?
Because I was thinking the same thing. I thought, you know, obviously it's quiet now.
Yes.
I thought, well, you know, wouldn't this work as a gym? But tell me about that.
Yeah.
Just go into that in a bit more detail.
So I saw that there was a devalue in the industry. Like personal training to me especially, because it did save my life. You know, athletics and everything that has to do with health and fitness saved my life, saved my wife's life, it saved many people's lives, right? The personal trainer is making a huge impact on another human being. I always tell the personal trainers, you're either saving somebody's life or you're improving their life. Obviously, if they're overweight and obese or have medical conditions because of their weight, you're saving their life, right? Or if you have a high school kid that wants to go pro ball, you know, you're improving their life by hiring a personal trainer or a coach. So why should they be devalued? Why should the equipment, don't get me wrong, my equipment, badass. It's best in the industry, right? Well, one of the best in the industry, but it has no value to us when it comes to personal training. Yeah. You can go to the gym. If you want to pay $10, go to the gym if you know what to do. But when you're hiring a personal trainer, there is a problem in the industry. You know, corporate gyms, in my perspective, have devalued that craft.
Right.
And that craft, why should the gym charge, say, $80 for a private personal training and the trainer only get minimum wage?
Right.
You know, they're the ones that are improving somebody's life or changing somebody's life. So for us, I wanted to fix that.
Right.
And I saw that as a huge marketing thing for me to be able to say, hey, look I'm going to help you make this into a career. This is not a job. So if I implemented gym memberships, then guess what we're doing now? We're salesmen. Now you're at the point you're pitching sell. You know, sell. Instead of me focusing on 3,000 gym membership, now I'm only focusing on 35 individuals that I'm trying to improve their life.
And to explain that model then, so you basically put up a facility and then you rent this out to 35 trainers. Is that
That is correct.
Right.
So and it varies by demographic and area.
Right.
But like for instance, you take my Temecula location, which is corporate headquarters, the largest. We're a little overboard on this one, but I have 50 personal trainers here.
Right.
That use our facilities 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, full
Right.
access. But we're partnering up with them. Like
Okay.
when I take on a trainer, I'm not interviewing them for a job. They're not here to be, take an application for a job. They're here for a career.
Right.
They're partnering us with us. I always tell them that, like, your success is my success, because if you're not successful here, we can't keep our doors open because we don't charge any gym memberships.
Right.
So the value of us together is a true partnership. Right. I'm going to invest my time and efforts to make sure you're successful, and I do that with 35 people.
Right. Okay. And do they charge whatever they want for their services?
And they typically will charge whatever is fair, whatever the market's calling. So if, like, for instance, our corporate gyms are charging 80, they'll charge 70.
Right.
They're always a little bit less, but yet the service is 100% there.
Right.
Also, they have the flexibility to run their business however they choose, but we also give them suggestions. I always tell my people, I was like, I'm not going to demand things from you, but I'm always going to suggest, because I'm not your boss, you know, so I can't demand things. So, but I will suggest things, and then we always have them understand this is an entrepreneurship role. Right. You are an entrepreneur with us. We're just supporting you. Yeah. We're 100% backing you on this. Right. For instance, we give them an already formulated Excel spreadsheet that allows them to track their income. If I come to one of my trainers, you say, 6 months down the road, hey, how much are you making this month? And they can automatically tell me based on that, they're winning. And if they don't tell me and they say, oh, I don't know, that's not a good sign. Yeah. Because as an entrepreneur, you need to know your costs. You need to know your overhead. You need to know what you're doing as a business, because this is a business opportunity. It's not an employment opportunity. It's a business opportunity. Yeah. And how do you manage, that's 50 trainers is a lot. How do you manage, it looks like you kind of got a big team sort of training area. Can they just use it as they want and they kind of have to get on with each other? How do you manage that? So that was the first hurdle that I ever had to overcome. And I always thought, well, how can I fit X amount of trainers into one location? Our Murrieta location, our first location was only 3,900 square feet. Right. And we had 37 trainers there. you know, and we never had an issue. And the reason for it is by appointment only.
Okay.
We don't have gym membership, so you don't have people crowding here, and everything is based on the hour. It's almost like a salon, you know, you're in and you're out.
Right.
But what's cool about the concept that we have, and the reason that we're succeeding in the way we do, is imagine going to a place where everybody there is focused on a purpose of what they're trying to achieve through health and fitness, compared to a big box gym. Typically, when you go to big box gyms, especially peak hours, you have people just randomly using equipment, some of them on their phone, some of them not even taking up the space but not using the equipment, and the energy is not super contagious, right? You come to one of our places, everybody's here for a purpose. Everybody's trying to excel in what they're trying to do. So the energy and it's just insane.
It's different. And is it only one-on-one, or did they do small groups?
So typically it's one-on-one, but they also have the capability of doing small groups. So they have the capability of doing of 4 and under, or on non-peak hours, they can have as many people as they want.
Right.
No.
And did I, say for example, I had 8 people, and there was 3 others. Do we have to just work it out ourselves?
Yes.
And
So
you kind of let them.
And that's why we call it the self-made family.
Okay.
We are all like-minded, right? And we're all here for a purpose, and we all build, like, we see each other almost every day. So we build this bond that we have an understanding, and it's gym etiquette, you know? We understand it. And what's cool about our facilities, the way I laid it out, was if, say, a back machine's taken, okay, no problem. We got 3 others over here that are different, but same exercise.
Right.
Same thing with, we cater ourselves to being not one-dimensional, right? So we have everything you can possibly think of in a sense of health and fitness, of being able to train, whether it be back, you know, legs, anything. And we have 3 or 4 pieces of equipment that will cater to that, if not more, just depending. So no one overcrowds each other, oversteps each other, and we all work together.
Yeah. And now, how many facilities have you got?
So,
Because I was going to ask you I can see how you could do it whilst you're in head office, but how do you scale that? Well, tell me how many first. And then.
So we started obviously with one here in Marietta. Now we have 14 locations.
14.
And a lot of the growth has been in the last year.
Right.
We've been around for 3.5 years. In the 3.5 years, the actual 2.5 years was me scaling it and putting my own investment in to make sure this was going to work before deciding to franchise.
Right.
So now we franchise, and I got approved October of last year. To sell franchises. That was a year process to get the franchising approval, because it's a very difficult process, a lot of attorney fees and things, and also going into it not knowing that the state was going to approve it, because they can deny your franchise.
Yeah.
And you can waste all that money, you know. So we had faith in what we built. I already had 3 locations open and running and producing and doing very, very well. So I felt very comfortable being able to sell this as a franchise.
Right.
So as of October of last year, we got approved, and then since then we've sold 12 locations.
Right. And you said it's about a family, and I can, as I said previously, I can get that. But you mentioned you've got potentially Brazil, and they're spreading out. How are you gonna keep that family feel when you've got so many locations?
So the way it works out, and this is where I could have easily sold 60 of these. I really could have. And the reason I didn't is because I wanted to scale properly and understand the value of what we offer. And my focus is to be owner operated. We haven't sold to any investors.
Right.
And the reason for it is we want to capitalize on Southern California and being able to do that. Now that we've done that and implemented the tools and system, we have a full back end system. Like, we have everything dialed in to where we can open anywhere at this point now and still keep the family feel, still be connected to corporate, still be able to have the education behind it, from, you know, my director of operations to my CEO to my marketing director, everything. We have a full team now.
Right.
So I wanted to get that in place now to be able to go out of the country and be out of state as well. Like, we just sold Vegas, so we're opening up Vegas here within the next 60 days.
Right. One of the things that I think is different to you, and it's what attracted me to you guys, was the brand. And tell me your philosophy, the importance of it, and your vision for it, because I haven't. I travel around the world. I meet lots of different gym owners around the world. I've not seen many that's taken your approach to branding, merchandise. Tell me a bit about that. Or us.
It's a movement. It's not just anybody can put a gym together. As my eyes, anybody can put gym equipment, and they do, right? But what is the value behind it? How can I make this a community? How can I make this a family? Right? And a lot of it has to do with branding and the name self-made in itself. Who doesn't want to be self-made? And self-made to us doesn't mean materialistic things. It doesn't mean money. You'll never see me flashing a wad of cash and saying I'm self-made, you know? I see that, and it's the most disgusting thing that you can see. It has nothing to do with that. Given my background and given where I come from, you know, I'm considered somewhat what it'd be self-made, right? But we added family.
Yeah, I noticed. I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, so we added family to it because if it wasn't for my wrestling team, I wouldn't be here. If it wasn't for my kids, I wouldn't be here. If it wasn't for my surroundings, I wouldn't be here, right? So we added that in there. And it's almost like an oxymoron. You're taking something very individualized and something that's unique, you know? And that's why, like with our logos, a lot of them have a circle. It's unity. Right. So we are a family. So the way we branded this is to build a community, is to build, you know, other people. And when it comes to self-made, is bringing others with you. Right. You know, these guys have the potential to do amazing things as trainers. For instance, my first 6 franchises I sold were to my personal trainers. You know, I told them in the very beginning, I plan on making this really big. I plan on doing this. Save your money if you're interested. They're leading trainers. They're great trainers. They can be great owners. And now they own their own franchise. Right,
okay. And coupled with branding then, which you do very well, I recommend anyone check out some of your merchandise. It's very cool. Marketing, yes. You know, it's a new world now. When we started in '99, and it was, emails weren't even around, it was faxes. You've started your business in a different world. What's been one of your most effective and successful marketing tools to get trainers, and you're obviously supporting them? What do you use and how have you approached that? Instagram.
I love Instagram. We built this business on Instagram, you know, but also piggybacking off on Facebook, Snapchat, everything. Anything that has to do with social media, you can reach the masses. And I love indirect marketing. I'm not a salesman. I'm not here to shove shit down your throat and say, hey, buy it, right? But if I can plant seeds, is what I call it. Some are going to blossom and become beautiful flowers. Some are going to just die out, right? So indirect marketing through social media is what we did. And when we marketed, it wasn't, hey, look at me, look at me. Hey, no, look at us. Right. You know, this movement, this company is built by trainers for trainers. And in return, by taking care of the marketing aspect, I market the heck out of my trainers. And I boast about them, not because not only they're my trainers, but they're doing awesome work. So it's very easy for me to market these guys when we're getting awesome reviews and they got great content that I can repost and use, right? But with the name in itself and social media, you know, I'm reaching the masses. And a lot of it has to do with just bringing value to them. And then our athletes, we call everybody athletes, by the way. Right. They're not clients. And the reason we don't do that is they're not just here to pay and buy something and leave. We're providing a service and they're performing. You know, which way you slice or dice it, they're performing, becoming, you know, athletes for us. Right. So with the marketing aspect, you know, by marketing that, they see the value that we're bringing to them. You know, we're not here to sell them anything. We're here to provide them a service. And they're going to be paying a fair value for it. They're not going to get, you walk into a corporate gym, you know, they're going to sit you down with the salesman. They're going to try to upsell you on the highest personal training package because the personal trainer needs to make a decent living, right? So we avoided all that. We don't want to be salesmen. So our marketing approach through Instagram has always been indirect and adding value to what we do. Right. You know, but we built this business on social media. On social media, and you've got a great following compared. I see a lot of gyms that try that, but there's some secret sauce that you've managed to get a big following. If you had to narrow it down to one thing, is it just sharing results? Is it talking about trainers? What do you think is the secret to have built that following? And it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle, right? Yeah, and people want to be a part of it. Right. You know, so they're going to be intrigued with it. Right. You know, if you're just selling product or putting product out there, or if you're just doing transformations, it's going to narrow down your market. Right. You know, not everybody's trying to lose weight. Not everybody's trying, but if you can build a lifestyle brand, then everybody's intrigued. Right. It's going to cater to a little bit of everything, you know? Yeah, yeah. So what's next then? You've got how many, 14 facilities? 14 locations, yeah. So what's next on you've got a dream board, I guess, and you're updating that. What's on the dream board next? Now it's to really take over. And really go as scale as big as we possibly can within reason and still be very strategic. We want to open up another 20 to 25 franchises this year. We want to also develop, we own a clothing brand, which is Self-Made Family. And then we also own the SLFMD brand, which is the abbreviation of self-made. Right. So we want to build those brands. And then also with our nutrition stores, we're expanding those as well. And they're all within our facilities. So is that your own or you? Yeah. Right. So we own, and then, so for us, us, it's just the scale. We want to scale and want to bring this to as many locations as we can because we are improving personal trainers' lives. We're creating careers,
Right.
full-on entrepreneurship careers. These guys are making a lot of money doing something that they love and helping other people at the same time.
Right.
Like, I get paid to lift weights, dude. It's crazy, you know, and it's very rewarding. Like, for us, like I still sell real estate, and I love real estate. It's helped me a lot. It got me out of the situation that I was before, and it was fulfilling, but it wasn't fulfilling like this.
Right.
This is, now I'm bringing other people to success with me. It's not just me at the top. It's like us, you know, the brand, the family. It's all of us,
Right.
within their own right. You know, some people are happy making X amount. Some people are happy making X, but they're coming along with us.
Yeah.
So it's just scaling.
Yeah, yeah. And why is that important to you? Because you've done, you know, you could probably put your feet up and come in for a few hours and enjoy your
Yes.
success, really. Why do you want to keep doing it?
I technically don't have to work, right? But I love it. I'm impacting other people. I'm helping other people. And if I can save a life, I can save a life with my story, with what I got going on. It allows us to really help people, you know, 100%. So I love that. I get fulfillment out of that, you
Right.
know. But yet, at the end of the day, too, I'm never sasatisfied.
Yeah.
Some people look at this as successful. I look at it as like, it just got started, dude. I'm just barely scratching the surface. You know, you can't. I've been told, you know, you're doing awesome. You should be happy. And I was like, yeah, I'm happy, but I'm not satisfied.
Yeah.
You know, I'm grateful. I'm thankful. But okay, what's next?
Yeah.
You know, how can we make this better? You know.
So what does success look like to you?
That's a hard question, you know, because I've had success to the naked eye or to the people on the outside. For me, successful is really being fulfilled and and happy with myself of where I'm at and what I'm doing. So far, I consider myself successful, but I'm not where I want to be yet.
Right.
You know, and that's subject to change. I may reach X, but then okay, what's next? And I think I'm going to be like that till the day I die.
Yeah.
To be honest with you.
So where do you think you would? Where do you see yourself or envisage yourself being next? What's your definition of it at this point in time?
At this point in time is to have 50 franchises within the next 2 years.
Right.
And being able to employ as many people as I possibly can and have them be happy with the employment with us.
Right.
That's success.
Yeah.
You know, if I can help people put food on their table, I'm 100% in.
Yeah.
If I can help other people fulfill their dreams through what we're doing, I'm fully happy with that. That's success for me, you know?
Yeah, it's a great goal.
No.
So we've got a couple of quick fire questions before we finish, which I shall run through. So first one then, what is your morning routine like?
Morning routine. So I wake up every day at 5 o'clock. I pray and I meditate and I visualize my day for an hour. From 5 to 6 a.m., it's dead silent. My phone's not going off the hook. I'm not being bothered by anybody or getting demands to do things. So 5 to 6, that's what I do. I pray, I meditate, and I kind of visualize what my day looks like.
Right.
I don't visualize what tomorrow looks like or the following week, that day, and I conquer that win. My goal is to win that day. So that's what I do first thing in the morning. Then I get to eat breakfast with my daughters every morning. I get up with them every morning. They're early birds as well, so they don't sleep in. They're getting ready for school. We're interacting. I'm talking to my kids, and then by then I come straight to the office. From about 8 to 9, I'm catching up on emails. I'm doing a couple things in the office, and then I train every day, Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. every day. That's my routine.
Right.
And I actually hire my own trainers. I do MMA twice a week, and I do bodybuilding, 3 times a week. Right. And the reason I do that is I hire my trainers because, one, I trust them, and one, it holds me accountable. Even though I know what to do, I've been doing it for so long, I know what to do. But these guys hold me accountable, and they're great at what they do, plus they motivate me to do more than I should. So 9 a.m. to 10:30, 10, I'm training. And then throughout the whole day, I'm handling my task.
What time do you finish? You normally work until then?
It varies.
Yeah.
You know, it's really, sometimes I can be up to 5, 6 o'clock, normal routine, or sometimes I'm up till midnight doing stuff. And it's hit or miss. Not all of it's always work. So it just really depends on that. But throughout the day, I know I have X amount of tasks I need to complete, and I do that.
Right.
I have a mentor. It's like an indirect mentor. He doesn't know he's my mentor, but Andy Frisella, he owns First Form.
Yeah.
You know, I follow the guy. I implement. He actually sent me a book that handles your 5 tasks for the day.
Right.
I do those 5 tasks every day, and I circle my W, or if it's a loss, I circle my loss, and I see, okay, why did I lose today? So that holds me accountable throughout my day. So those are subject to change, but it's always either business related or family related. Yeah. I only have time for those 2 things. Yeah. I really don't have, and obviously my personal is my training. Yeah. But other than that, that's what I do throughout Monday through Friday, Monday through Saturday.
Right, okay, good. What's your best time-saving shortcut or hack? You know, how do you sort of, I guess, leverage the limited amount of time you have in your day?
That 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. window, that right there is instrumental to my day.
Right.
That either saves me time throughout the day or adds time throughout my day. Because knowing that what I'm going to visually do for that day, knowing my 5 tasks for the day, it allows me to say, okay, look, I got X amount of hour for leisure, or it's all work today.
Right.
So that's crucial for me. And then also, it sets up the mindset for the day.
Right.
You know, if you set up your mindset first thing in the morning, you're going to have a good day. Yeah. You're going to have some setbacks some days here and there, but you're going to have a good day.
Yeah. That's good advice. So what word would you use to describe your own sort of business and management style?
Aggressive.
Aggressive.
It's like, there's no time for procrastination. You know, I don't procrastinate. I'm very aggressive. If I want to do something, I do it. I don't overanalyze it. I just move forward. Like, I literally, if I have an idea, I'm going to act on it. Sometimes it blows up in my face, but sometimes it doesn't. You know, and 90% of the times it doesn't.
Yeah. What's your least favorite business activity you have to do, and how do you deal with that thing that you don't enjoy?
Paperwork. Everybody hates paperwork, you know, but the little things that you hate the most, you have to do the best. So right. I'm very hands-on with my paperwork, but I do have a full staff. I have accounting, I have my own CPA. So all that we hire to be able to help with that. But that's always been my setback. It's always, you know, I'll worry about the paperwork later. Let me just, you know, I like shaking hands, kissing babies all day. You know, that's what I do.
Do you listen or read to any podcasts? And if so, what are you listening or reading to at the moment?
Yeah, so Andy Frisella, his podcast has been instrumental to our success. It really has. I can't take credit. A lot of the things that he does is things that I do myself. I don't copy him, I mimic him. You know, he's a great individual when it comes to running a company and having core values with the company, because everybody's looking at the dollar, right? And by not looking at the dollar and really focusing on the core values of a company allows you to really be successful when the dollar comes, right? So Andy Frisella, and then I started a challenge actually this year where I read a book, one book a month. I started it actually last year. Towards the end of the last year. So I read at least a book a month.
Right.
The book that I'm currently reading right now is the Lois Howe is the Mask of Masculinity. So that book has been instrumental as well of, you know, removing certain masks that we have as men. Given my setbacks, given my past, I'm very flawed. Like, I'm not perfect, you know, I have issues. And with those issues, sometimes it's not quite understanding them. So that book alone has been instrumental to my success as well. It really allowed me to remove some of these masks, whether it be the egotistic, stoic, any of that stuff. It allows you to understand who you are as an individual. Yeah. So I highly recommend read a book once a month. Right. That's what I do.
Okay. Where do you go to get new ideas and inspiration for your business?
A lot of it has to do with my hobbies. You know, I was, you know, even with our fabrication of our desk, I build classic cars. So being at lowrider shows or being at car shows or messing with my own cars allows me to get ideas of what I want to fabricate for a desk or what I want to fabricate for an equipment piece. Same thing into like our graffiti. I'm into all that stuff. So my thing is my hobbies, what I like to do, from MMA to bodybuilding to my art to my tattoos, my tattoo artists that I follow, getting ideas and concepts. I go to the things that I like, and I do things that I like, and in return, other people love it as well. Yeah.
Okay. What advice would you give to your younger self?
Don't do drugs and alcohol. You know, that's it's the truth. You know, as a kid, and given, peer pressure, and sometimes you may not have a jaded past, and peer pressure alone in high school or junior high or as a kid allows you to do stupid things. I have 2.5 years sobriety. I don't drink and do drugs anymore, and a lot of it has to do because of the facility. Yeah. This facility has held me accountable. One, I couldn't look at myself in the mirror, preach, hey, health and fitness is what you do, while I'm still partying and doing drugs on the weekends. So my advice is don't mess with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it ruins people, man.
Yeah.
It really does. And it can start off with just drinking and leads to other stuff. Some people have the capability of not having a problem with it. So it's not for everybody. But for me, the advice would be, don't dabble in that stuff. Yeah. If you can prevent all that stuff, why not? Yeah. You'll have a much successful life without it.
Yeah, yeah. And then final question. So Escape Your Limits is about overcoming what you've been, I guess, told or taught to believe is impossible, and to make it possible. So what would be your most memorable example of escaping your personal limits?
The memorable example is when I became homeless. Knowing that wasn't going to define me, and being able to push forward on that, and be able to really challenge myself as an individual of what I can actually make happen. Escaping those limits and escaping, not letting that define me. Yeah. And really allowing me to see who I am as an individual, what I'm really capable of. People have this limitation in their head that they're only capable of doing X, but realistically, we're powerful human beings. We can do anything we want. We really can. You just got to put your mind to it. Put your head down, get to fucking work, and you're good.
Yeah. So Miguel, you're a great example of what's possible. I'm sure 50 Studios is going to happen a lot quicker than you planned. Thank you very much for your time, and success in the future.
I appreciate
Thanks
it,
very
man.
much.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, then please go over to iTunes and subscribe to the Escape Your Limits podcast. Leave a review, leave a comment. It really would help us a lot to continue to keep these going.